Hi everyone, it's Lori and welcome to the channel. I am really excited for today's episode. So I am going to share today with you how to use and introduce you to the Spring 2024 brushes by the artist and designer Kyle, who creates brushes now for Photoshop. So if you're not familiar, I will include the link in the description below, but Photoshop offers these exclusive brushes from the artist Kyle Webster. Kyle created these many years ago and now creates them for Photoshop. When you go to the page, you will see all the different packs. But what's really fun is starting, I think in 2018, he started creating brushes by season. And it's just incredibly fun. There's such a variety. So if you're like me and you love the artistic brushes, you may want to download all of these. But what I'm going to focus on today is the new release of the Spring 2024 brushes. There are over 30 brushes in this set, which is amazing. They are really, really fun. Not all of them probably would work or that you may use with your photography, but there are several that I really love in this pack. So let's jump in and get started. All right, so I'm going to go and start actually with another image. Let's come over to this image to get started. So I've been playing with these brushes. Now, if you are new to loading brushes, let's start with the basics first. So if you go to Window, you want to make sure that your brushes panel is open. So I have mine over here on the right, and it is all open under brushes. Now, if you go to the little dash or hamburger menu, you click here and you can do import brushes. So when you're on the Photoshop web page, you just download the file, click import brushes, click the file, and they will open automatically. So if you look down below here, I have the Spring 24 brushes all loaded. And you can see there's just a huge collection of brushes. So when I first load brushes, what I like to do is go ahead and just get familiar with them. Now, if you find a brush that you like, you also can move that brush to your favorites folder. So I have a favorites up here, and you can decide, how much you like it, which you like. You can add them to your favorites. So just wanted to mention that as well. Okay, so when I get started, let me just give you a tip. What I like to do is I'm going to come up to my color selector, and let's just select this blue in our flower. And whoops, wrong tool. Let's grab the eyedropper, select the blue, and now we're going to go to the brush. What I like to do is select one of the brushes and actually play with it. Now I'm going to enlarge it a little. And this just allows me to see what the brush does. And so I like to kind of play around with it. Now this is called Gloss Bristle, but I have to say I like it. It does have that kind of splatter effect, but when you drag it, it gives a really neat, almost, painted look. So you can see the different variations that you can get. So once I do that, I just kind of play with it, and then you can just erase and go back. And so I like to go through the different brushes and just see if there's some that I really like. And I think about how I would use them. So this one is fun for kind of more a splatter look. Now I'm just going to go back. Hollow Leaf. So this one is definitely one that I would use in my photography, and I'm going to show you how I use this one today. And remember, you can increase the sizes of your brushes. You can also increase the opacity or decrease the opacity as you go. This one's really fun because it picks up other colors. So it's not just, let me take that opacity up. It's not just the color you select, it's bringing in similar colors. So I think that one is really, really fun. So as I go through, here's another leaf one. This one I really liked. I think this is one I will make and add to my favorites. Isn't that just a fun texture that you could add to an image? So let's just say we come around and add that. You could reduce the opacity of your layer to just bring that down and make it like a texture. You could also change your blend mode. So we could do screen, and I just think it's really, really interesting. So you can kind of come around and, add that in if you wanted to really create your own texture with an image. So I think that one is a really fun one. So when I'm getting to know what's in the pack, I just go through each brush and I just make my strokes. And then if there's certain ones you like, again, you can move them to your favorites box, or you could write down the name just so that you kind of remember what they do. I like this one as well. This is called Crack Up. I just think that is a really beautiful way to add. Again, I like to use textures to add some detail to my background. You could also paint the petals with it. So that is another one that I really like. All right, so now that we've gone through, I would encourage you to go through all of them. I thought I would take you through a couple examples today of how I've incorporated these new brushes. Okay, so let's stick with this first image. And the first thing that I did is I actually used the gloss bristle brush. So let's go and find that one. And I think it's up here at the top. So here's gloss bristle. This is the one that I was showing you. Now remember, you can drag your brushes. You can also just pop on. And so for this example, it's going to be really, really subtle. But if you'll look at our blue flower, and if you'll look at our background, you'll notice where I've dragged and brought in some of the blue color, and I also used it on the petal flowers to soften them. So brushes are a great way if you shoot flowers to add a little of that softness. So I just came in, you can reduce the opacity of your brush, and I just came in and you can see how that is adding that blue color, and I'm just slowly painting, there we go, you can see it now, over my flower. Just giving it those kind of artistic brush strokes. And I think I have the opacity at, let's see, I have it at 28% for this. So I have it really light and soft, as well as I reduce the opacity of my brush. So I'm just kind of adding that. This one is called Glow Bristle, and I think it does give a nice glow. Now for the background, I enlarged it. And this is where you've got that where it almost, looks like paint streaking. So I thought it was fun to kind of extend the, streaks of these lines and the kind of firecracker-like look or firework look of this flower. So just thought it was fun to do kind of these painting splotches. And remember that you can also add additional layers. So I could do the background on a separate layer. So you can think about how you come in and kind of add this movement that I'm creating with this fun brush. Now you can try different blend modes. You can also try different opacities of the color, and you can change your colors. So I could come in with the dropper, and let's select some of this green. I'm going to go back to the brush. Still got my opacity pretty low, and I'm just going to pop in a little bit of that green as well. So just kind of bringing that color in on top of the other colors. And I'm going to go ahead and increase the opacity a little bit. Let's take it up and see what it does to just kind of pop some of that in here. Yeah, it's very, very subtle, that green color. There we go. Adding just some fun artistic elements. Now you can decide how much you want this to show up, how subtle you want it to be. It's all about your artistic expression and how you want it to look. We could also come in and go ahead and select this darker green. Again, go to our brush and just pop some of that green, which isn't showing up as well over the kind of red color, but it's still giving some texture there. So just some fun way to play. And that again, there we go. I love that down in the bottom, just adding that looks like a paintbrush quality to this image. So that was the glow bristle, and that's just using it like a paintbrush. Now the second one that I did is called Color Duo. So let's come down, and there's several color ones in this pack that I really like, but here's Color Duo. So let's get this layer, and I'm going to show you what it does. Let me go to this layer first. And this is Color Duo. Let me enlarge it. And I just thought this is really fun texture. Now I've got it on the green. I'm going to pop it as well. So it almost looks like a thumbprint. I think it's a great way to add texture to a scene or a background. And it's really, really neat. So let me go back and clear what we just did. And there we go. Okay, so let me show you how I applied this one. So this is before and then after. So I have the layer at 34% opacity. Let me scroll out just a little bit. I'll show you what it looks like at 100%. So you can see I applied it as a full texture. So I went around the entire image and I had selected a color in the scene. I selected that lighter green. So once I've applied it, I've lowered my opacity down because I like it to be really, really subtle. So I could still come in, and again, we want to make sure we match our color. So let's go and add a little bit of this real soft blue on top of what we've already done. I am going to take my brush opacity down. There we go. It's very, very soft. But I'm just going to come in and pop in some of the blue color as well. I want to make it really, really subtle. And the great thing about using a brush is you can go over it multiple times. So don't think you have to turn up your opacity. Just go over it kind of more than once if you want. Now, if you wanted some pops of the blue a little darker, then just increase it. Let's come in here and add some of that blue. I just love creating, my own background, own artistic, kind of like a painting. And then again, go over where you want it. You can even go over the flower tips a little bit and just come in and play. So I thought this brush was just really fun. Again, it's Color Duo, and I love how it creates this, painted look and almost like a smudge. It's very similar, I think, to a smudge brush. So I thought it was really pretty. So that was that one. I have it at 30%. Now I did apply a mask. So with the mask, I went up and I just used a soft round brush, and then I came in and I removed some of the paint from my flower, just to kind of keep the detail in my flower. Now you can remove as much as you want, and then you can also flip it back to white. I'm going to take the opacity to about 20%, and I'm going to come around the edges and bring back some of the paint so that it looks really natural. So that's one way that I like to use mask, and then I've still got my beautiful background. All right, so that is that example. Then I worked on one called Crack Up. So Crack Up was another brush that is in this pack. And let me go find Crack Up. And I think that one is also, you can see it's got very, very detailed brush. Now with these, you can pop it on. Let me take the opacity of the layer up so that you can see it. I also have it on overlay mode. So remember, you can change your blend mode. So this is at normal. Sometimes I like to paint with it at 100%. And then you can play with your blend mode and reduce it. So I'm coming in now and adding some of the blue color on top of what I already did. So there's several ways to paint. You kind of have to figure out what works for you. And I do it different depending on the image. If you're wanting to create a true texture for your image, then keeping your opacity of your layer at 100%, and then just using this like a brush and getting it where you really like the texture and the colors. So I'm just going to come in, add a little bit more of the blue. And then what I'll do is reduce the opacity of the layer, get it down to where I feel like I kind of like it. If I see some spots that I think are missing the color, then I can go back over those. And I think I need some green up here at the top. So I'm just going to grab my eyedropper, select the green, and I'm going to go back over some of this top area, give it a little bit more green tones. So just kind of keep playing with it. So you can reduce the opacity, and you can also change your blend mode. So for this one, I really liked screen. And then with screen, we can actually increase the blend mode or, decrease it a little bit. Now, I would still add a layer mask here. I'm going to go up and grab my soft round brush. That's the one I like to use when I'm masking. And I'm going to grab a black brush, black paint, and now we can just bring back some of the detail of our flower. Again, I don't want to go quite to the edges, and I may bring back, let's go to about 50% or 40 some, and I'm just going to bring back a little bit of the stem, maybe some of these lines. You just have to be careful. So I'm going to go back over these edges and kind of come over. Let's flip it back to black. I'm just going to be selective in bringing out some of the detail of my original image, but I still want it to look very painted and natural. So now we can flip it back to white, take your brush really low, like 25%, and then with a big soft brown brush, I just go over the edges to make sure I don't have any area that kind of has that ghosting look. You can also pop some of that paint back just to be sure that it's really cohesive. So I thought this one was fun as well. Again, this one is called Crack Up. All right, let's look at another image that I've worked on. And this one, I tried to use a couple other options in the brush selection. So let's go down and let's look at, this is the beginning image, super sweet flower out in the garden. But I thought the background could use a little whimsy and fun. So the first one I tried is the K color shift. So K color shift is right here. Let me click on the layer and look at the shape of this. So let's select a color. I'm going to select this hot pink so that you guys can really see it at home on your computer or TV. Here is, let's take the opacity of this layer all the way up for you so you can see how it makes. You can go and make just these marks. You can also brush it. So it just kind of depends on the level that you're wanting it. So you can see as I come through. So what I decided to do, let me go all the way back before. I decided to use it with just the same green that's in the background. So if you look at the before, I just selected the green color in the background and I have the opacity now at 33%. So I brushed on. Now what's great about this brush is it's going to alternate the colors as you go. So it's going to give you some variations. And I love when the brushes do that. You're not having to change your color as often. So you can see with the pink there. So once I finished, I kept the blend mode. I changed it to soft light. So let's look at the normal. There's the normal. You can see how I use this lighter pink color, and I also use some of the green. But what I liked for this one was actually using soft light. And I thought that just really was beautiful. And then I lowered the opacity to that 34%. Now for this one, I could also add a mask, but I made sure that I only went to the edges. So you can see I have a little painting around the edges, and I think that just really makes it all pull together, gives it that uniformity. So that one is Color Shift, and I really, really like this one. It definitely will go in my favorite box. Now there's also another Color Shift 2. So let me also show you. I think this is the same. Yeah, it's the same exact one. I made a copy. So let's turn this one off and let's play together for a minute with Color Shift 2. So it's just a different option. And let's use that hot pink color. I'm going to take the opacity though down of my brush to about 30%. I'm going to enlarge this, and I'm just going to, pop in this pink to really tie all of the flower together. So I'm just going to come in, pop that in, and I'm just playing. I play every time. I kind of have some standard ways or strategies for using these brushes, but it's also all about playing. And sometimes it just doesn't work out, and other times it works out great. So I encourage you, don't get frustrated. What I like to do is layer the colors. So I'm going to go back now and use the light pink, go back to the brush. I'm going to use the same brush. You can also make it smaller now, and I'm just going to pop in that pink. Now my brush is at 31%, but my layer is still at 100%. So I'm just layering this like I'm creating a texture with paint. So I'm just layering it. Could also try dragging it a little bit, but I think for this image and my style, you can also make kind of little dashes with it, so you don't have a full brush effect, but just kind of like smudges. I'm just going to smudge a little. You have to kind of play with it and get used to using these brushes. And I'm going to lower the opacity even more and brush some more. So now I can really kind of brush it and just keep coming around. Don't forget your edges. You want the paint to kind of look like it's going off the page. And using multiple colors really, really helps it to look like more like a painting. I am going to go over the stem just a little bit. I'm going to go over the edges of the flowers just a little. We can always clean that up. Okay, I think that's coming together really nice. What I like is the dimension of the darker color and the lighter. So I'm just kind of smudging it around. Okay, now is where you can change your blend mode. So we can try different blend modes. So screen is really pretty. It definitely looks like a painting. There's soft light. So that one, it makes the green stand out too much for me, but for some images, it may work just perfect. So lighten is another good option. I like that one. Multiply, of course, is going to darken. Dissolve isn't doing much. Let's look at overlay. Overlay is also making that green too strong. So I think lighten or soft light is an option, or screen. And screen is really, really beautiful. But let's leave it on normal for right now. And I'm just going to go ahead and lower the opacity down. And you just have to decide what you like. I think I really like that one. I think that's really beautiful. Now, if you wanted to now go in and take a really small brush, and we've got that pink selected, you could brush some on your flower petals. And I'm going to increase the brush opacity because the layer opacity is lower. And I'm not sure if it's going to show up. There we go. Yeah, I'm just going to paint a little bit on my flower petal. And I'm just kind of dragging that around. It's going to be very, very subtle. But if I printed this image, there you go. You can see it there in the center. Now, I don't like that, so I'm going to erase it. But I do like it in this area. And right here. And anywhere, where it's too strong, you can just either undo, and then we can reduce the opacity. So I'm going to just bring it down. and just apply it really, really soft. Go in these areas. And then what you can do is if you just want it to really look natural, I'm going to make sure I've gone over this area. Then you can apply your mask. Let's go up and grab a soft round brush. Let's make sure it's on black. I'm going to take the opacity down to about maybe 15%. And now I'm just going to brush some of that off to really soften it, especially over here. And I'm probably going to increase the opacity of my brush. Yeah, and just remove some of it. So I know it's kind of like paint, then remove, but remember that your mask is it's just softening it. So look at that kind of before and after. So let's go back to the whole image and let me scroll out a little bit. Here is our before and here's our after. So I love this background. I think it really is pretty. And then if you look at our petals, you can see some paint added. It's very soft and subtle. Definitely. And then you could use other brushes. So we could come up and use that glow bristle on here. Let's make sure we've got a color selected. Maybe I want to select, oh, I keep doing that. Maybe I want to select this pink color. Let's get on the layer. Okay, we've grabbed our pink and now we've got that glow thistle. So we can come in, I'm going to make it really small, take our opacity to about 50%, and I could just extend that pink color. There it goes. It's very, very subtle. So I'm just kind of dragging it around to add some additional texture and some of that color to our flower. You just want to take your time. Oh, I think that's really, really pretty. That's making that pink just adding it right in here. Maybe adding a little in the shadow areas and dragging our pink through here. Very subtle, but if you look at this petal right here in the center, there's before and there's after. So really, really fun. I love how that effect worked. So that is using originally the color shift, and then it's using the mask and working on that together. So I thought this one turned out really pretty. All right, stay tuned. Go grab a coffee. I want to show you one more, and please take a minute to click like and subscribe. It definitely helps me out and keeps me making these videos for you. All right, so I think the next one I want to do is, let's do this butterfly together. And I'm just going to show you really quick what I did with this one. I actually used 3 brushes to create this kind of pointillism background. Now, the before image was fine. It's just a nice image of this butterfly over these irises. I was capturing the butterfly in flight, and it's fine. But I thought it would be a fun image to add a painting technique with, and I wanted to try these spring brushes. So for this one, I used Hollow Leaf. So let's go down and find that one. And maybe it's not called Hollow Leaf. That's what I called it. I'm not spotting it, you guys. Maybe it was Painted Leaf. Let me search and see if I just wrote the wrong thing. Oh, there it is. Spring Brushes 2024. I just wasn't seeing it. So you can always go search if you can't find a brush. So let's go back to our brushes. There's Hollow Leaf. It was right there at the top. Okay, so Hollow Leaf, I'm on white. So let's see if we're on the layer, and I'm going to go ahead, see the opacity. So that's all the way at 100%. So you can see what I did. I'm going to take it back down, and you can decide how much you want. It's your artistic expression. So let me duplicate this layer and turn off what I originally did so I can show you. I'm going to just walk through the steps really quick. I'm not going to do it to perfection, but I want to give you an idea. So first, hollow leaf is this pattern. So what we can do is come in and actually select the same green color. So I'm going to select actually that lighter green because all I want to do is add that texture. And you can see with hollow leaf, it actually gives you shades of that color. So you could just come around and go crazy with this one. You could also just pop it in. I absolutely love this one. So that's hollow leaf. The next one I used was called New Dots. So here's New Dots. And this one does truly dots. And you can see just different dot patterns. So with this one, I am going to select this light purple color. So again, it's all about layering. So I'm just going to come in and pop in this purple. Now you could also brush, but it's going to give you a solid. And I was wanting this to be like pointillism. So I'm just going to pop these in, all over. I'm doing this really quick for you guys, but we'll see how this one turns out. Okay, so that was New Dots. Then I used Giant Stipple. Now this one is really fun also. So it is going to be a stipple brush, and it's just going to give you another effect. So I'm going to grab the dark purple and come in and pop in. So that's going to give it some dimension. Now this brush, if you do this one, you can get, it's not going to be smooth. It's going to give you that true stipple. So you could decide if you want to just pop it in or if you want to kind of brush it. So my idea with this one is just to bring out some of that dark purple layer. All right. And then you could even go back over with your green if you felt like you needed it. So I layered all of these together, and you could decide if you want to bring it down into the grass, kind of how you want it to blend with the irises, if you just want it in the sky, or if you want it kind of all over your image. You get to decide that. You're the artist today. Okay, so now I'm going to bring down the opacity of my layer and just bring it down. Now this one, you can see the darker purple is way more prevalent. Now we can also try different blend modes. So there's Lighten, that's really fun. There's Screen, and that could be really beautiful. So if you really like things soft, I would encourage you to try Screen or Lighten. They also will impact your colors. If you like things a little bit darker or you're working with a dark, moody image, then you definitely want to try one of those. Dissolve can also be a nice one. So I think for this, Screen actually might be my choice, and then just increase the opacity a little bit. And then you can decide what you want to do from here. So this one looks totally different than the one I originally did. You can kind of see the difference there. So I want to also show you on this one, if we go back to the leaf, you can also make this really large and then pop in and also kind of come down with it to make your patterns. So you can do so many fun things with this one. I just think it's really, really, really fun. So I'm going to lower the opacity back. And if you want something whimsical and fun, it's a great option. So here was my final image. You can see how I blended it a little bit down below. And then I did mask. I did a mask to bring out a little bit of the details, but I did leave some of the paint around my flowers, and I did mask it off the center of the butterfly. So again, that one was using hollow leaf, New Dots, and Giant Stipple. So there are so many fun things to play with in this collection of brushes. I hope that you will explore it and have fun creating some really beautiful, soft textures, some fun, some detail. I'm using these right now because they're spring with flower images, but you can use these texture brushes with any type of image, even a gorgeous landscape. So have fun. Let me know how you like them and which one's your favorite in the comments below. Thanks, everybody.